Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, my merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click that like button, and please leave a comment. All of these things, they definitely help, and guys, they really do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's second half, shall we? Alright guys, I got some good news. I received a text from our friend Victor. He is home. I said to him, glad you're home, take a couple days. And I guess he and I are going to connect on Saturday and talk a little bit. But I wanted to give you guys an update. Hopefully he comes on and shares what he went through down in New Mexico. I'm looking forward to talking to him, so I hope you guys are as well. Now, let's get into some terrifying Dogman encounters. Today's first terrifying encounter. This story recollects what happened during the Navajo Nation fair season of 2015. My roommate and her boyfriend decided to head back to the reservation to take part in the festivities. Rodeo, parade, and carnival. My roommate was the offspring of divorced parents and spent her teenage years half on the reservation in Window Rock, Arizona with her mom, and the other half with her dad in Phoenix. She was raised as a devout Catholic, even attended Catholic school. Nothing paranormal had ever occurred to her in her lifetime up until this point. Her boyfriend was an urban Navajo who was Christian, having been born and raised off the res in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm declaring their religious ideologies and affiliations because neither of them believed in the Navajo traditions or ghost stories. Late one evening, after both of them got off work, they decided to head out to make the most of the 3-day fair weekend. Now, my roommate had made prior accommodations with a good friend from high school. When my roommate was a young adult, her mother decided to move away from the res. If her mom still lived in Window Rock, she would have just simply stayed there. The accommodations were as follows. Her good friend opted to stay at a close relative's and offer her a 2-bedroom, 2-bath manufactured home at their disposal. The trailer was located off the road between St. Michael's and the first 4-way intersection. The first intersection past KTNN when you are headed towards Window Rock from Summit. Many have called it the back road to St. Michael's. The old original township of St. Michael's, that is. As you can imagine, they arrived to their Navajo fair pretty late. The trailer was off to the right, off of the main highway, and was situated at the front of a large rolling hill. There were no streetlights. First order of business, my roommate calls her friend to let her know that they had arrived safely. They walked up to the trailer and unlocked the door and give themselves a tour of their accommodations. They turned all the lights on in every room as they toured the trailer. My roommate had driven the entirety of the journey, so she was a little more fatigued than her boyfriend, and asks him to go get the luggage. The car was parked about 40 feet away. She explained to me it had rained some weeks before and the dirt road leading up to the house was a wreck. To avoid bottoming out, she parked on level ground. She walks into the guest bedroom and her boyfriend is already laid out on the bed. She pleads with him to go get the luggage and, most importantly, her makeup bag so she can remove her makeup before bed. She compromises with him and says she'll go out if he does all the heavy lifting. She doesn't want to put her heels back on, so she decides to watch him from the porch. Yeah, heels. She worked at a bank and had to always dress professionally in a pantsuit and heels. So she's standing on the top stair of a small 3-staired porch with the front door slightly ajar. Her hands on the doorknob, her boyfriend walks off into the pitch darkness. The light from his phone serves as the only beacon of light, signaling his location. As she's watching his light grow dimmer and smaller in the distance, she hears what seems to be a pack of dogs, howling and barking. She said it sounded like a rumble, a pack of feral res dogs or coyotes fighting. The pack of dogs comes barreling down a large hill behind the trailer. She hears a loud thud against the back wall of the trailer. The thud was so loud she heard the rattling of picture frames that were hanging. At this point, fear begins to creep into her mind. She calls out to her boyfriend and hears no response. She shouts for him once again. That's when she realizes the dogs have all gone silent. All at once, in one fluid succession of motion, she said that something from inside of the trailer slams the front door, so fast that it creates a gust of wind. She said that if she hadn't been holding onto the doorknob, it would have knocked her off the landing of the front steps. The front porch light flickers and goes dead. She's standing there barefoot in the darkness. She tries to open the door and retreat back into the trailer. She was able to turn the doorknob until it clicked. The door wasn't locked. Something heavy was pressed up against the flimsy manufactured hollow door from inside. At this point, she said she didn't realize she was crying at the brink of an anxiety attack. Adrenaline took over and she began throwing herself and all of her weight against the door. She said once she saw it open an inch and the light from inside flooded the doorway from a split second before it slammed shut in retaliation. Fight or flight, she decided to run barefoot into the darkness to find her boyfriend. His account. He leaves his girlfriend at the top of the front steps and walks off into the darkness with only his phone serving as a flashlight. He's being very careful where he steps because the earth is turned up and twisted and gnarled, deep ruts and grooves from the vehicle driving in the mud before it hardened into a crust. He's afraid he might twist his ankle. He hears the frenzied howls and barking of the dogs. He turns around to look where the sounds are coming from. In a distance, he sees a faint light of the porch light go off. He rationalizes to himself that the dogs barking frightened his girlfriend, and in fear she ran inside, unintentionally turning off the porch light. At this point, he continues to walk in the direction of the car. He hears a thud of footsteps behind him, mimicking his own stride, not exactly in tune with his, following a split second after his own thud, almost echoing his own intentionally. Figuring it might be his frightened girlfriend running out to find him, he calls out to her with no avail. He sees a dim flicker in the distance, the light from his phone bouncing off the reflectors of the taillights of the car. His body floods with relief. The relief quickly drains to despair. His phone erratically dies. His heartbeat almost beats out of his chest. How could this be? He wasn't on his phone the entire drive. It was fully charged. He takes a few urgent paces towards where the car was before the lights turned off. His palms are sweaty, and he swears he could feel his heartbeat pounding in his hands. He desperately reaches into the pockets for the car keys. He begins frantically pressing all the buttons. The lock, the unlock, the panic, the open hatchback button. Nothing. He even stretches out his hands in the darkness as he presses the buttons, thinking he's on the cusp of the electronic radius of the vehicle to respond. Still nothing. The footsteps behind him hastened and almost sound like he's going to be charged from the back. He's terrified to look back. At this point, he realizes the dread he feels in the pit of his stomach means it's something unnatural. His shoulders drop like he's bracing for some sort of impact. The sound of the footsteps would indicate that he should have been hit by now. Nothing. The footsteps loudly lead directly up to him, right up to his heels, and still nothing. He opens his eyes and hears something like a coin drop and hit the top of the car. He turns around to the patter of bare feet on the dirt road. His girlfriend charges into a full embrace, hugging him and burying her face into his chest. Mind you, his feet stay planted. He doesn't take one step forward or one step back. The car keys are still in his hand. His thumb presses down, a loud click, the familiar sound of the hatchback automatically opening, and the light from inside the car quickly floods their surroundings. They grab their luggage and a pair of flip-flops for her from the car and slowly make their way back to the trailer. Oddly, the front porch light is on now. My roommate makes her boyfriend go inside and check all the rooms before she goes back in. He opens the door with ease. He checks each room meticulously. There's no one or nothing inside. All the windows are still locked from inside. Once back to the safety of the trailer, the boyfriend then turns his cell phone on, and it's still back to the same percentage it was before he went out to the car. They shared their experiences to recount what happened to each. Both of them are dumbfounded at the fact they were both shouting at each other and couldn't hear each other. Growing up on the res, you hear your fair share of skinwalker and ghost stories. But this was the first time I heard where the perpetrator manipulated electronics to a great extent or even at all. It's also the first case where the perpetrator manipulated sound waves. Both of them swore that they were easily in earshot of each other but weren't allowed to hear each other's cries. There are no structures or trees behind them obstructing the sound waves. They both heard the packs of dogs but weren't allowed to hear each other's screams. What also spurred me to share this is the massive amounts of questioning. Why haven't they been filmed or caught on camera if they exist? Well, skinwalkers are just as modern as you and me. Wicked as much as they may be, they are not stupid and deal with smartphones and technology advances as much as anyone. They walk the world as normal people during the day. Tonight's next encounter is a possible, what I believe, Dogman encounter to this young woman in Michigan. I'll explain later why I say possible. Actually, during this, you guys will understand why. These are statements from the young woman that's happening to and her best friend. So I live in northern Michigan and I need help with identifying a possible cryptid. Two of my friends live fairly close and both have claimed to see what they call a pig demon. Just a name my friend thought of on the spot. She's seen it walking down a pipeline and then she booked it not knowing what it was, and another time it had chased her through the woods, as well as my other friend when he first saw it. Two different events, mind you. My female friend said it was short, walked on all fours, and had a fatter body. She knows it wasn't wolf-like, and searching the name Pig Demon brought up nothing. I'm going to do a little digging myself, but I'd appreciate any assistance or comments. Hello, I am said friend. Pig Demon scares the life out of me. I'd appreciate any comments. The times I've seen this creature, it's lanky, a light fawn color like a deer, but not right. Dark head almost like hair. It's on all fours, it's too tall to be a deer or an elk. I've hunted and I know what they look like. Another time this creature was seen was many years before I had moved to this property. Mind you, I live on 87 acres of mostly woods. Another friend of mine was younger and he was out on his property exploring when he heard stomping, snorting at the ground, and twigs snapping. He saw said thing and gave a very close description of mine before I told him about this entire thing. He recalled running home and it chasing him, but never turned around to look. When he got home, him and his brother locked all the doors and began to smell blood for 3 days. I've also smelled blood on my property before, but it's not uncommon since my mom raises meat rabbits. Canine is the closest animal its body could be described to. Its front arms kind of look longer than its hind. But how the pipeline is, it has a lot of dips and hills, so I took it as that. It was skinny. It reminds me of a sick dog, now that I sit and really try hard to picture that day. When I saw it then, second time, I remember standing still and trying hard to make out the details. I remember it picking up its head and looking at me. Then it started to move at me. At that point, I just took off down into the woods in a different path that I knew very well back to my home. This was in the middle of the day as well. The first time I saw it was outside my window, and it was for a split moment before closing the curtains. I'm very positive it's on my property because most of the night our dogs bark and yip at something. We can hear branches snapping and leaves moving, but can never get a good look. We do have coyotes and other small animals like fox, squirrel, etc., so it may just be them. But I get a bad feeling some nights. This creature has been on all fours every time I've seen it, and in other instances. It looked about as tall as I am, maybe an inch or two shorter. I'm 5'4", as of weight, no clue. Length is harder because it turned and faced me before I got a good chance to look at it. We have an Alaskan Malamute that sleeps outside in a locked-off covered area with a concrete floor and a doghouse that stays out there as the livestock guard dog for my mom's rabbits. I was thinking about that as well. Pig demon really didn't mean anything. I was explaining it to someone and they made a joke saying, "Oh, it's like a pig demon," and when my friend told me about the snorting he heard, it just stuck. To me, the head looked like just dark long hair, like it was all wet and pushed down to cover its head. As for shape, I'm really not that sure. I was too scared to stay when it started my way. Human hair, definitely. We haven't been able to get a good look at it due to its aggressive tendencies. I'm glad. I never want to see it. Although my friend's account of the creature are very close to where I live, and it has an easy path to my house. She says it mostly stalks the area around their property, as all 3 sightings were around the same road. Alright guys, I hope you all enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'm really excited about the update. I love talking to Victor and just really hearing him share things with us. He's a good friend. He's a good guy, and I really do appreciate the insight and information he shares. I know some people a while back and now don't really believe what he's got to say, but he's proven himself time and time again to me. So with that, stay safe, stay healthy, and may the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may he guide us down the path we call life.